Hello everyone, my name's Michelle, and in this Business Book Club blog I'm looking at The Choice Factory by Richard Shotton. This was actually recommended to me by a coaching client who knew the author, and he suggested I took a look. I was really pleased that I did. In the book, Richard Shotton covers off some theories and also lots of research about behavioural science, which inform the way that we make choices when we make purchases. So it's every kind of marketer's dream, really, and it's full of interesting insights. In the book, Richard Shotton separates his work into 25 separate chapters, each one looking at a different behavioural bias which illustrates the way in which decisions are made when we buy things. In every chapter, it starts with a little vignette or an example of a behaviour that will be familiar to you. Then it talks about the theory and the research. And finally, each chapter shows how you might apply some of this learning as well. In the book, Shotton covers off these 25 biases. Some of them will be familiar to you. So they cover things like price anchoring, social proof, which I think we're mostly familiar with these days, primacy effect, and most people have heard of confirmation bias. Still worth a read because these things are proven to work. Even if you know about them, they work. And of course, the book explains why they work and how you might use them. I'll cover off some key things that I learned in the book to give an example. Some interesting ones for me were about the pain of payment. So if you want customers to buy from you, make paying as effortless and as quick as humanly possible. So some suggestions here for how you might do this are by getting people to pay by card. So some students were asked to bid on some basketball tickets, and they were given the option to bid in cash or by card payment. The people who bid by card bid $69 on average, whereas the ones who are bidding on cash were only willing to bid around $29 on average. So card payment, it's quick, it's effortless. I guess it's a little bit less tangible, and it makes us spend more. Charm pricing, most people know about. So this is where you charge $3.99 instead of £4 or $99 instead of $100, and it works. We are aware of this tactic, and even though you know that this is what the seller is doing, they're trying to make the price sound lower. When people shop, we are in a bit of a hurry, and so I suppose when we're doing making the associations in our brain or doing the mental arithmetic, we tend to think of the price as being lower. Even if we sat down and thought about it, we know that really it's closer to £10 as opposed to £9 if it's priced $9.99, for example. Some other examples of how you can take some of the pain out of your pricing. The example is given in the book of how Cafe Byron Burgers, Cafe Rouge, for example, when they put their prices on the menu, they don't put the $ or the pound sign in, they just give the number. It's a tiny thing, but actually some research was done and where they compared putting these symbols on versus not putting them on, and people were willing to spend more where the pound sign or the $ wasn't there. Remarkably, the book says few organisations actually do this, despite the fact it is shown to work. And even how you price things out, whether you give a monthly price, a daily price, a weekly price, or a yearly price. If you give the daily price, people are more likely to spend money or spend more money than if you give that price as a daily figure or a monthly figure or a weekly figure. The smaller figure does work. So if you say it's the equivalent of £3 a day, you're going to get a lot more than if you give it as a monthly price. It's almost as if 6 times 4 is smaller than 4 times 6. It isn't, but intuitively it sounds like it. So pain of pricing, take that out and make it easier, and this can work to your advantage. The book also covers that the curse of knowledge is another subject. So a few things that marketers do sometimes, they assume the customer knows everything that they do. So sometimes descriptions of products or services are far too detailed. Of course, the average person sitting at home doesn't know as much about the product, and that's where marketers fall short. The point is made in the book that customers are satisfiers, not maximizers. So marketers tend to be maximizers. They want to get the very best value for money or the very best product to customer. But of course, customers don't regret not getting the best product for the money at the end of the day. They're satisfiers. They just want their needs met. what they regret more is straying from the crowd or making the wrong decision from a social perspective, as opposed for getting pounds and pence worth for their money. So this is an interesting idea of customers wanting to, making an emotional decision and wanting to make a decision that is seen to be acceptable socially. To not do that would be more painful than to not realise the maximum value for their pounds and pence. And a really interesting one on this one was the idea that, if you want to sell to a customer, you've got to think like a customer. An example was given where Richard Shotland's own team did not have the time or budget to put together a research group to test out what customers thought about products for male incontinence. So instead, they tried to think like a customer, and among their team, every so often, they would send a text message to tell their team that they had to find a toilet as quickly as possible. And they sent these text messages throughout the day over a period of days. This gave their team the insight as to what it was like to be the customer in need of the product. And of course, they found that when they were at home near a toilet, this was fine, but when they were out or about, it caused a lot of frustration and potential embarrassment too. So this highlighted a number of problems that the team could then address in the way that they market the product to customers. So a good reminder for us all to know your customer and actually stay close to what the customer needs are, which is something I think we should all know, but sometimes we forget because we have that curse of knowledge. Now, you've also got the pratfall effect, not named after me, of course, but this is about the idea that being flawed or making mistakes can actually make you more appealing to customers, not less. So our flaws make us more appealing. Now, I think most of us could probably think of examples of companies who've used this really well. So Guinness, for example, it takes forever to pour at a bar or pub, but they use the tagline, "The best things come to those who wait." Think about Stella Artois, reassuringly expensive. They've made perhaps the weakness in their brand part of the brand to make it more desirable. So lots of companies have used this very well, and this can increase the trust because you're acknowledging a flaw, therefore people think of you as being more authentic. When people only hear good things about your brand, they tend to assume you're only showing the good bits and you're hiding the flaws. So this can work to your advantage. However, it must fit your brand and you've got to be consistent. So if customers don't think you offer a good quality product or service, the pratfall effect could make you seem worse, not better. Whereas if you've already got a good product or service and customers like you and respect you and rate you, then this will work to your advantage. So you've got to be a bit careful. It will probably amplify whatever view or perception people already have. But if that can work to your advantage if your offering is good. Another tip here is to not hide negative reviews, and actually we see this now I think a lot more on sites like booking.com. Rather than try to hide the negative reviews, a lot of companies now respond to them professionally, and it's true that most customers can, if they see the good, they see the bad, they can get a more balanced view. So it makes us trust the company more than if we just put our good reviews out there. So there's a few things that I've learned from the book. There's a lot more in here, as I say, 25 chapters of different biases. What did I think of the book? Overall, I think it's really interesting. It makes a point about the key differences between what customers say they do and what the research shows they actually do. Sometimes asking your customer isn't always the best way to find out what they want or need. Another thing I think that I got from this is that even if you know about the biases, it doesn't make you immune to them. I've come across many of them before. I'm even aware of them as I'm buying, but yet they do still sway me. We are emotional decision makers, but I do think having knowledge of these, both as a customer and as a vendor, is really important. I like the way that the book gives us an example. It's very open about the research and the theory, and it's all very well grounded, the information that is shared. But there's also a practical bit in each chapter that shows you how you might apply these. And finally, there's a good chapter on ethics at the end. I'm glad this wasn't omitted because some of these methods might sound a bit manipulative. I don't think they have to be. I think if agendas are open and if they're used well, then there's no reason why they should be manipulative, but they could be used in a very surreptitious way, I suppose. But Richard Shotland doesn't swerve that question. He does address these issues in a chapter at the end of the book. And it's well grounded in research as well. The only thing I would say with this is it is very much aimed at marketers or people who sell products or services. It gives some interesting insights into psychology and the way that people behave. But if you're not looking to sell products or you're not a marketer, you might find it interesting, but there's probably not a huge amount you can apply there unless you want to use it as from the perspective of a customer. So I think it's quite marketing focused, but interesting nonetheless. If you're interested in why people buy and the difference between what they say they want and what they actually do, then I'd recommend this book to you. It gives some really interesting insights.